Hello, and welcome to today's yoga session. We're going to focus on pandiculation and yawning and integrating that into our yoga practice a little more today. So pandiculation is defined as expansion and contraction. So it's a type of stretching, but it also involves parts of your body contracting even as you're stretching or expanding other areas. It also has an element of the breath involved with it. And then the most important two things in my mind that distinguish it from normal stretching is that it's a wave. It can't be frozen or stopped or held. It has to move. If you try to stop it, it derails. And it's an emergent phenomenon. It doesn't come from the intellect down. We don't think our way into pandiculation. In fact, we have to get out of the way. We've got to shut down that part of our brain that controls the body from the top, the motor cortex, and move more organically. There's some wonderful video and images of fetuses starting as early as the 7th week. So certainly by the early second trimester, but sometimes as early as 7 weeks. And the fetus has its mouth open and it's yawning. And fetuses start to yawn and stretch well before the motor cortex, the part of your brain that we think of as controlling the body, well before it's developed. The fetus is already stretching and moving inside the womb. Now, that movement has to arise from somewhere. And there are a lot of animals that don't have a developed motor cortex like we do, and yet they're capable of amazing movement. So this is going to be about trying to tap in and learning to move from a more primitive, more organic place, rather than letting the cerebral cortex dominate, which is what tends to happen. So the pandiculation moves like a wave. It flows the same way a nerve, the impulse propagates down the axon of the nerve. It's a wave that travels down the nerve. In a somewhat similar way, the fetus isn't telling the muscles what to do. The contraction and expansion is moving through the body without an intelligent center of control, propagating through the fascia, through the muscles. And so that's the feeling that we want to try and find. So if you think about the simplest pandiculation as a yawn, the mouth opens and expands, and then at the very top of the inhale, we start tightening the throat, contraction. When we tighten the throat, that helps to trigger the yawn. So let's give that a try. Breathe out. Breathe in very slowly, not getting too far ahead of the yawn, and then start opening the mouth. And then at the very top, pull your bottom lip down, tighten your throat a little bit. And if you do it just right, that will often trigger a yawn all by itself. Now this time, tighten the throat deliberately, pull the bottom lip down, tighten the throat, try to move the tightness a little left, a little right, a little higher, a little lower, and try not to do that by thinking. Just try to feel, intuitively trying to figure how to move the sensation around. Take the back of your tongue and lift it up and forward or backward so that your tongue and throat and your jaws, all of them are creating and then moving sensation and then moving it like a wave so the sensation moves around and through. Now relax. Now try that with a slow inhale. So breathe in normally, breathe out, float at the bottom, wait for the urge to breathe in, then breathe in slowly. And as you're beginning to reach the top of your breath, start opening your mouth, tightening the throat, triggering a yawn. And then coming back to center. Now you'll notice that when an animal yawns, quite often it yawns not just with the mouth, but with its whole body. Small children also, before they become inhibited. So our main thing we need to focus on isn't trying to add control. For today's practice, we're trying to let go of control. We're trying to let go of that part of the brain, the motor cortex, that overrides, that dominates, the part that doesn't interfere when a cat is stretching. Okay? So this isn't a function of adding new control, it's about letting go of that which is holding you back. Surrendering and allowing movements to become more organic, more playful. So let's try that with the arms. Float the arms out. Let the arms get heavy and then expand through the front of your body slightly. And then find the muscles in the back of your body and contract the shoulder blades. Pull together and down. And then 9 times out of 10, if it isn't working for you, it's because you're doing this too much. So try it again, but very, very delicate. Expand the front, tighten the back, and then remember it's a wave. It propagates through the body. So begin to focus on the sensation. Move the sensation through the body. And as you're doing that, look for the opportunity to yawn. Then roll out the shoulders and open into a twist, taking the right hand behind, cross the left, lift, expand, and rotate, and then breathing into this position. Two or three breaths. Switching sides. Come back to center and then leading with the left shoulder. Reaching behind. Lift, expand, rotate, breathe. Couple more breaths. And coming back to center. Circle with the ribs. First one way, and then the opposite. Switch out your legs, whichever foot was in front. Put the opposite foot in front. So this time we'll do the same thing, but we'll pandiculate. And here's the key. If I push to my edge, there's no freedom to move or explore, and there's a greater risk of injury. And so we have to be more careful. We have to be much more careful when we're playing right at that edge. But if you back away from the edge a little bit, there's a greater freedom to move, and there's a less likelihood of doing anything that's going to cause any harm, so you can let go of the defensiveness a little bit and play more. So watch. I reach back with the right hand, cross the left, lift, expand, rotate. But now I don't rotate as far, just a little bit till I meet that first bit of resistance, and then watch. Oh, and I play with my arms, my shoulders, my ribs. So try that. Going to the first side, back away from your edge, and then play. And as you're playing, focus on creating sensations, moving the sensations through the body, undulating, breathing, and looking for that first opportunity to yawn. Then, at the very end, if you want to work into the pose a little more deeply, if you get that urge, that's fine. Switching sides. Come into a delicate twist. And then begin playing, undulating. Playing with your arms, and your elbows, and your ribs. And working a little bit. And coming back to center, circling and reversing. And rolling out the shoulders. Cat-cow. Lift the tailbone, drop the belly, open the chest, look up, finish breathing in. Tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin, finish breathing out. And then on your own, a couple more times. At first, think your way through the movement, and then begin to focus 50% of your attention on thinking about how you're doing this and the actual execution, and 50% on how it feels when you're doing it. And then gradually transfer all of your attention into creating the feeling of the pose. Couple more repetitions. Let the sensation flow through the body. And back to neutral. Tuck the toes under, walk the hands in close to the knees, lift the knees, standing forward bend. You can come up a little bit, place your hands on your thighs, and bend the knees a little more until you're comfortable. Those of you who have already warmed up or have flexible legs and a strong back are welcome to lean into a deeper stretch. Stretch the exhale into a sigh. Now bend the left knee a little bit more and move the stretch into the right leg, and then switch, move it to the left, go side to side a few times. Now balance the stretch evenly between both legs. Take another breath or two. And then roll back up. Buckle the knees, slip the hips under you as you're rolling up. And then standing with your feet hip width, outer edges parallel. Now let's experiment with pandiculating from a standing position. So float the arms out and then expand through the front of your body, from the chest out through the fingertips, and then find the muscles in the back of your body and contract, drawing the shoulders back and down a little bit. And then bend the elbows, and then lift one heel and twist, and then extend and contract, and then open the back and contract the front. And now without thinking, begin to move in a way that helps to trigger more yawning. You can add a little dynamic bouncing. You're bouncing not into range of motion, but you're bouncing into the resistance just enough to create a sensation. And then in such a way that that sensation you create when you bounce feels pleasant or delicious. And then float the arms down, roll out the shoulders. Vinyasa Sun Salutation. Feet a little closer, outer edges parallel. As we float the arms overhead, start by drawing the abdomen in and lifting the chest up, and just not clenching but firming the abdomen, floating the chest up, and then take the shoulders back and let the hands follow the shoulders back. Sink the shoulder blades down, float the chest up, firm the abdomen. Breathe in, and then reach your hips back and catch your thighs with your hands, or if you prefer, you can release into a full forward bend. Then as you start up, buckle the knees and slip the hips under you as you roll up. Float the arms overhead, firm the abdomen, lift the chest, take the shoulders back, and then reaching your hips back slightly and either coming down part way or all the way. Now with your own breath, roll up, firm up, stretch overhead, finish inhaling, and on the exhale, release into the forward bend. 5 or 6 or 7 more repetitions. couple more times. Hold your overhead stretch. Belly firm, chest lifting, shoulders back. And then lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs, go side to side. And then float the arms down, and then a Qigong twist. Let the arms flop from the shoulder joint. Those of you that would like a little more action, a little bit more twist, take your arms horizontal. That'll add more momentum. A couple more times either side. Coming back to center. Trikonasana, triangle pose. So stepping wide, turning the left foot out at 90 degrees, turn the right foot in at 60. Shift your hips to the right. If you know how, spiral the left leg, but instead of coming into your fullest expression of the pose, instead just come over enough that you pick up your a little bit of sensation, then expand everything to increase the sensation. Float the right arm up, and now pandiculate. Rolling the shoulders, bending and straightening the left leg or the right knee, moving your hips around, moving the shoulder blades around. Maybe even yawning. And then, trying to stay in that same zone, begin to work your way into the pose a little bit more strongly. But try to maintain that organic, natural approach to the pose. 4 or 5 more breaths. One more breath. And switching sides. Turn the left foot out, turn the right foot in. Shift your hips to the left, tilt the pelvis. Spiral the right leg. Come into just a slight pose. And then yawning. Try not to think, just feeling your way around. Creating sensations, moving the sensations through the body without thinking. And then, as you feel the urge to transition into a stronger pose, begin to organize the pose more deliberately. Three or 4 more breaths. And coming up. Going back to the first side, and this time extended lateral angle, which is a strong pose. We'll do 3 levels. The first, a very slight level of engagement, and then pandiculate. Then a moderate position, and then anyone that practices this pose and wants to go deeper, I'll guide you into a full pose. Start with your legs a little wider than triangle pose. Turn the left foot out. Lift the back heel, take it wider, set it down. Bend the front knee. Stop when the knee is vertical, And if you decide that's too easy, walk that foot away, lunge a little deeper. And then coming up as if you're going to do Virabhadrasana 2. And then moving your hips. You can bounce a little, rolling the shoulders around, moving your hips around, twisting, turning. Oh, you can even get a little dynamic bounce. And then try to do all of that in such a way that the body feels the urge to yawn. That's your body telling you that it likes what you're doing. Now, lengthen through the left rib cage by reaching away with the left elbow and letting your hips kick to the right. So the left elbow, the right hip reach away from each other, lengthening the lower ribs. And bring your arm onto your knee. And then with the right hand, reach out past your head and then quarter rotation so your thumb turns up and you're looking at your palm. And then think about taking not your hand, but your inner armpit back behind your shoulder a little bit, and then extend through the right side of the body, from the outer edge of the heel on the right foot, all the way through the ribs, through the shoulder. If this is too easy, lift, lengthen the low rib cage, and bring the left hand to the floor, even with your foot, and then extend through the right. If you get tired, lean on the left arm more. If you get a second wind, take the weight off the left arm and use your legs and your core to support your weight. 2 or 3 breaths. When you're ready, switch sides. Turn the right foot out, left foot in. Lunge. Come into a very loose Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2, and then play. Play with your hips, with your legs, with your shoulders. And then settle into a gentle pose. Reach away with the right elbow, let the hips kick to the left. Bring your forearm to your thigh. Extend with the left arm, rotating, bringing the inner armpit back. And either staying here or taking your right hand to the floor. Now breathing. 4 or 5 breaths. And again, leaning into that right arm. If you get tired, taking more weight out of the right arm if you get a second wind. 2 or 3 breaths. Finish with a forward bend. Feet wide, turn pigeon-toed, hang and relax. Breathe deep, stretch the exhale. One more breath. And then coming down to the floor. Working next with the back roll. Rolling up your blanket from one end to the other. And roll it as tight as you can. Remember, if you unroll it, it gets easier. And if you rolled it up more, it gets more intense. Turning sideways, laying over the roller, and then bringing your arms out overhead, or bending the elbows and supporting your neck. Remember, if you can't relax, unroll the blanket enough that you can. On the other hand, if you don't feel like you're getting any stretch, roll the blanket up a little bigger.
Breathing deep, stretching the exhale into a sigh. Go for 4 more minutes. When you're ready to adjust, lift your hips, push with your legs so that you roll over the top of the roller an inch or 2. Then set the hips down and relax into the new position. 1 vertebra at a time, working your way down the length of the spine. In each new position, focus on breathing and relaxing. Use your exhale to let go. Go for 3 minutes. A couple more minutes. If you finish early, go back and start over with the roller in the upper back. Ten or 15 more breaths to finish. When you're finished, lift the hips, remove the roller. Now keeping your hips off the ground, lift 1 foot off the ground, bring the knee into your chest, pull the knee in until you feel the pelvis rotating slightly. Then set the low back on the floor, bring the other knee in, rock side to side. It's a simple trick for keeping your back from compressing when you hug your knees. Do 1 repetition of bridge. Bring your feet to the floor, close to the hips, hip width apart, outer edges parallel. Anchor the big toe, flare little toes wider. Press down through the ball of the big toe, lift the arches. Holding on to that, lift the pelvic floor, press the kidneys down, curl the tailbone up, and then lift just a few inches and hold. If you're on your period, pregnant, eaten recently, high blood pressure, hiatal hernia, glaucoma, or any other reason not to lift higher, just hold here. Those of you that want to are welcome to continue lifting higher now, letting the hips come up higher. Then Jalandhara, bring your chest towards your chin and lengthen the back of your neck. 3 or 4 breaths. Slowly come down one vertebra at a time. Stop before your hips touch the floor. See if you can find your balance as you lift one foot off the ground. Pull the knee into your chest as you set the low back on the floor and bring the second knee in. Rock side to side. Now coming over onto your hands and knees. Couple of cat-cows. And then coming down onto your stomach. We'll do 3 rounds, moving from Cobra to Down Dog and back to Cobra. And again, the first round focusing on thinking your way in, and then transitioning to the third round, not thinking, instead feeling. Coming onto your stomach, place your forehead on the floor, bring your hands back behind the shoulders, wrists under the elbows. Press the tops of the feet down until the knees lift off the ground slightly. Press the pubic bone down. Shrug the shoulders to your ears. Lift the shoulders. Now focus on the sensations in the upper back. Find the shoulder blades. Squeeze the shoulder blades into the spine. Draw the shoulder blades down the back and reach the chest forward and come up. Don't use your hands at this point. Focus on pressing down the feet, reaching the chest forward, opening the chest, shrugging the shoulder blades down the back, and feeling the back muscles work. Spread your fingers wide, middle fingers pointing straight ahead, downward facing dog. Come up onto your knees first. Bend the elbows, scoop the elbows together, keeping them bent, and then press the knuckle of the index finger into the floor as you squeeze the elbows towards each other. That's a spiral of the arms. Try to maintain that action as you lift the knees and slowly push back into downward facing dog. Press the heels down, lift the arches, lift the shins, lift the kneecaps, lift the quadriceps. Engage Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen. Adjust the alignment of your neck. Reach the hips away. Pull the chest through towards your feet. Float the shoulder blades away from your feet. Broaden the upper back. Spiral the arms. Spiral the legs. Take a breath or two. And Cobra. This time, as you think your way in, focus on thinking your way in less and feeling more. Press down with the feet. Shrug the shoulders, roll the shoulders up, squeeze together, draw the shoulder blades down the back, reach the chest forward. Now use the techniques, everything you know intellectually, to improve the quality of the sensation. Then focus on remembering how that feels. Downward facing dog. Same thing. Bend the elbows, squeeze them together, root through the knuckle of the index finger, spiral the arms, lift the knees, reach the hips away. Reach down through the heels, lift the arches, shins, kneecaps, quadriceps. Pull the chest through towards your feet. Float the shoulder blades away from your feet. Broaden through the upper back and shoulder girdle. Couple more breaths. And now, without thinking, feel your way into Cobra. This will be our last work for the back muscles.
Focus on improving the quality of the sensation. The better yoga feels to you, the more likely you'll stay with it long enough to experience the full benefit. Take a breath or two or three. Downward facing dog. Down dog will be our last work for today. Two or three breaths. Bring your right knee forward. Slide the left leg back for pigeon. Start with a gentle stretch. Take a breath or two. If anything doesn't feel right, back away, reposition, and try again. If it does feel good, work your way a little deeper. Turn your attention to the exhale now. Stretch the exhale into a sigh. 5 or 6 breaths on the first side. One last down dog. Take a breath or two, and then come into pigeon pose on the second side. Once again, start with a gentle, easy stretch. Experiment, reposition until it feels right, then relax into it. Stretching the exhale into a sigh. Take a breath or two. Coming onto your back for a spinal twist. Either bring your right knee into your chest or both knees if you feel vulnerable. Then roll your legs to the left. Turn your upper body back to the right. Complete breath here. Breathe into the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the back, the shoulders. Allow the right shoulder to lift a little bit as you finish breathing in. And then hypnotize yourself. Let the right arm get heavier as you breathe out. This position is not comfortable for you. Experiment, modify until it is. Three or four breaths.
back to center. And either bring both knees or just your left knee if you want a bigger stretch into your chest. Roll your legs to the right and twist the upper body to the left. Rock side to side. Then coming into a twist. Bring your feet to the floor, grab the back of your neck, and then pull the back of your neck longer and lower the back of the neck to the floor so your chin is tucked into your chest slightly. Take your arms out horizontal, elbows bent a little. And then with both feet on the floor, just let your knees roll to the left, turn your head to the right, and then pandiculate. And you can use your legs, contracting, expanding, flaring the toes, the fingers. Oh. And time to trigger a yawn or two. And then come back to center. And do the same thing. Lengthen the back of the neck. Let both knees roll to the opposite side. Turn your head away. And then with your arms and your shoulders, and your chest and your hips and your legs and your toes. Stretching, pandiculating. Contracting, expanding. And coming back to center. Hug both knees, rock side to side. And then coming into Savasana. You can keep the knees bent, or if you feel comfortable, straighten the legs away. Check your legs for symmetry. And then interlace your fingers behind the base of your neck and let your head rest and let the hands do the work of lifting the head off the ground, pulling the back of the neck longer so your chin moves towards your chest slightly as you lower your head back to the floor. Bring your arms out and down slightly at maybe a 45-degree angle, or the hands a little closer to the hips. Shoulder blades drawn together. The back of the neck is long. Close your eyes without squeezing the eyelids. Now when you yawn, your mind really focuses on the sensation of the yawn, of the breath, and the speed of the breath, the sensation of breathing in, holding, and breathing out. So see if you can pay just as much attention to every single breath in Savasana. And if one of those breaths turns into a yawn, just ride it. Don't get out, don't interfere. Just like a surfer riding a large wave. And then settle back into your breath awareness. And as you continue to pay attention to your breathing, relax your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, your mouth. Fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders, feet, ankles, calves, knees, and thighs. Loosen the hips, relax the buttocks. The low back, the belly. Kidneys, the ribs, chest and shoulders. The back of the neck, and soften the throat. Jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. Especially the eyeballs, the space behind, beneath, around the eyes, the eyebrows, the forehead, temples soft and hollow, scalp and the crown. With a really good yawn, you're fully conscious of the breath without interfering. Find that with every breath as we practice Savasana. Let every breath be as perfect as a yawn, whether it's small or large, fast or slow, a perfect wave. All you have to do is get out of the way. Let the body breathe and pay attention. breathing a little deeper. And see if you can yawn. Then bring your hands up, interlace behind the neck, pull the neck long, lower the back of the neck to the floor, float your arms out to the side, and just off the ground an inch. Bend the elbows a little. Now, let the arms get heavy as you expand. Create a light little tingling. If it's strong, ease up a little until it's delicate, and then move that through the body by moving the body. The fingers, the wrists, the elbows, the hips, the legs, contracting, expanding, pandiculating, and yawning. Roll to one side. Take a breath or two. And then push up to a comfortable seated position.
I'd like to thank you for joining me for today's class. And this idea of pandiculation, for me it's the fountain of youth. If you think about it, we start pandiculating while we're still in the womb. And even when we're small children, we still stretch and breathe and move without thinking so much. And then slowly over time, as the cerebral cortex begins to take over and dominate, it suppresses those urges until we don't even notice them anymore. So this is a process of learning how to temporarily just let go of all of that activity in the higher brain so that we can yawn, we can move, we can stretch, we can breathe, and we can move and pandiculate the way a cat or any animal is able to do. And when we do that and you do it correctly, you'll know because the body starts releasing things like oxytocin, nitric oxide, opiates. There's a whole list of chemicals that the body starts releasing when we're yawning and we're doing it just right, when we're pandiculating just right. It leaves you feeling really, really good. So when you're doing your yoga practice, don't let the yoga practice, the technique of the yoga practice, suppress those natural urges. Allow some space in your practice for that instinctive, intuitive movements. Not all the time, maybe, but occasionally in one or two poses, giving yourself permission to really feel and explore without thinking. But don't limit it just to when you're practicing yoga. When I wake up in bed, I like to do this for a minute or two before I even get out of bed, sometimes 20 or 30 minutes. Yawning, stretching, breathing. When I go to bed at night, quite often I'll do 5 or 10 minutes. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll pandiculate while I'm waiting, and then quite often that's all I needed to be able to go back into deep sleep. But also throughout the day, any time that there's the smallest space of time or the most subtle urge, see if you can begin to notice that, and even if it's just 10 seconds, and then re-engage with what you're doing, and you'll notice that your ability to pay attention, to focus, and your creativity and your sense of enjoyment are enhanced when we take a break every time we feel it. Your body knows when it needs this, and it will give that little urge to stretch, but the urge can be so subtle, and we've learned how to tune it out so well that usually we don't even notice. So as you start to pay attention, you begin to notice, sometimes I think of it as an opportunity to stretch or to yawn. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening. Bringing your hands together over the heart. Namaste.